Welcome to the Registered Investment Advisor Podcast, where financial services marketing expert Seth Greene interviews experts, executives, and top producers to share can't-miss tips on how they successfully manage their financial service firms, grow their businesses, create great relationships, and influence the industry. And now, here's your host, Seth Greene.
Welcome to the RIA podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be joined by Jeff Bartsch from Resolve Entertainment. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be here, Seth. Looking forward to it, man.
All right. We are excited to have you. So first of all, let's tell everybody what Resolve Entertainment is and what you guys do for RIAs.
Absolutely. If you're just meeting me, my name is Jeff Bartsch. And if you look me up online, you typically would see that I spent 20 years in Hollywood creating content for ABC and NBC and Universal and Disney and Apple and those folks. And you might wonder, how on earth does this connect to the world of RIAs and to advisors? So the short version of this goes back to when I got called out by a church musician when I was in elementary school. The nutshell is, I was known as Jeff the piano guy for the first 20 years of my life. And when that happened, I thought that just because I could play the notes on the page, just because I could show up in a church on Sunday morning and play Bach and Mozart, that everyone said, Jeff, you're amazing. You're an amazing pianist. Until one day someone said, Jeff, it's all well and good to play the notes on the page, but when you get older, you need to learn how to play from your soul. And when I heard that, I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. And I thought that was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard. And this lady was saying, what's this play from your soul junk? But really what happened was, as I learned as a musician to grow, I learned how to do that and actually how to bring the message to life and to take things up and to the next level, to elevate what was a regular message to the next level. And that's what I ended up doing for the next decades of my life. Creating content in high school, doing radio in college, doing film school in college, 20 years of creating content in Hollywood. And then within that context, taking what I've learned about communication and elevating things to the next level to, at first, consultants and advisors, and focusing that within the financial world at this point. So within my company, it's called Story Greenlight. It's a division of Resolve Entertainment. We help advisors go beyond just what you do to say, here's why you should pick me, and here's how to connect with people. We've taken that idea of connecting with humans and turned that intangible process into an actual process that anyone can do.
That is absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure the longer version of that journey could be in a book somewhere if it hasn't already. Let's dive in a little bit. What do you think is the biggest issue why RIAs and advisors haven't been able to tell their story or differentiate themselves in a really compelling manner?
I think the really hard trap is we're raised to believe that just because we're really good at what we do means people will automatically pick us. And it's just not true anymore. It used to be that we could have high-level skills or we could have very specific information. But let's face it, the world now has access to all the sum of human knowledge at your fingertips right now. So the question is, why should people pick us? Why should people pick you or pick me? You have a great big number for AUM? Fantastic. So do lots of people. You have a whole freight train of designations behind your name? Fantastic. So do a lot of people. Why should people pick you? That's that question that we all have to deal with.
Absolutely. So how do you help advisors uncover the answers to that question? Because you mentioned technically there's not that much that differentiates us upon first glance, right? Unless you've got some black box whiz bang investment management strategy that nobody's figured out ever before, they can get the same ETFs, same funds, same annuities, same insurance anywhere. Every advisor says we give great customer service, we'll take good care of you. So statistically, it can't be true. How do you uncover the compelling parts of their story?
The number one starting point is who you are and why people should care about you. Because when you say, because the fact is, if you try to say, I'm for everyone, it is incredibly difficult. And I know this well with your marketing background. It is incredibly difficult to say, I'm for everyone, therefore I'm going to reach everyone and connect with everyone. However, when you say, I'm amazing at this world, or if, for instance, if your firm has different verticals that you specialize in, all of a sudden, just that very idea of, hey, you're in a vertical, you're speaking about specific problems to a specific group of people within your specific vertical that you have specific knowledge of. All of a sudden, people say, oh, you get me. Okay, let's keep talking.
That makes a lot of sense. I know you've achieved some incredible results for some of the advisors you've worked with over the years. Are you allowed to share some of those stories? What they were struggling with, what magical transformation you were able to help them engineer?
Absolutely. And I will say, when you look me up, you will see that my public-facing messaging is focusing specifically with the accounting advisory world. But I will say, these ideas have direct application to the larger financial advisory world within the context of some of these ideas that I talk about. The most applicable versions of the client stories come from the world of fractional CFOs. And so there were times when my client Hannah, at one point, she was working with one of her CEO clients who was just completely torn. She was emotionally distraught. And on the top level of things, it's okay, so what are the numbers and what are the numbers saying? But that's not really what the client cared about at the end of the day. What she truly cared about was her end client was wanting to know, how can I protect the value of my business while taking care of my people right then? And working with Hannah, with my virtual CFO client, one-on-one, we went through the process of figuring out, okay, what is the current mental state, the psychological and emotional state of this end client? What does she really need to hear? Hannah adjusted her forecast to her client. And the next thing, they are both literally in tears of happiness because she was really able to speak to the kind of things that that client actually cared about, not just the numbers. You're able to go with it, you're able to talk about the things that are below the surface that truly drive what people talk about and care about. There's another time when there's a virtual CFO who works with the cannabis industry. His name is Guillermo. And Guillermo he's looking to build his book of business. And so the company that he's working with as a fractional advisor said, let's start a podcast, much like what you've done here, to great success. And he is now building relationships. He's expanding his public presence and building relationships with every single episode that he does. You've literally written the book on this. And he's building all these relationships in an industry, in a niche that is notoriously difficult to break into, but he's booking guest after guest, and relationships are building and contracts are coming in. Their business is growing. So it's not just about, okay, let's do marketing. It's all about, who are we speaking to? What do they really truly care about? And how do we connect with them in that context?
That makes a lot of sense. And I love the example, of course. Thanks for setting me up there.
100%.
Now, you brought up something really interesting. You mentioned the virtual CFO services. There seems to be, and you may have noticed this as well, a trend in our industry where it went from, hey, we're all starting our own RIAs, the fee-based asset management, we're on the same side of the table movement 20, 30 years ago. Then it went into, a lot of us wanted to become multifamily offices. We were going to bring accounting and legal and other things on staff in-house. So we were a one-stop shop. Now it seems that the latest trend, for lack of a better term, is we're your virtual CFO. What kind of trends are you seeing, and how are your RIAs and your advisors using your storytelling? Like, how are they distributing their story? How are you helping them get it out to the world?
I'll tell you, the number one way to do that is in long format conversation, exactly like what we're having right now. Because whenever you're in a context where you have a relationship with a client that requires high levels of trust, there's a reason that referrals have been so critical to business development forever in these kind of industries, because it is all about trust. But what happens if your firm is not 100% referral based? Sometimes it is. If that works for you, awesome. If you're looking to expand in another way, how do you put yourself out into the world in a way that builds trust? Long format conversations like this on business podcasts are incredibly helpful. They are incredibly powerful when it comes to learning who someone is, just beyond some words that you might read in their bio.
Absolutely. And then when you help them craft that story and you're talking about conversations, are they producing that in a video? Are they turning that into marketing collateral? Are they using that to generate other business in the door in any way?
You can do whatever you want. It's awesome. It's so cool because it's not just about, it's easy for people to say, oh, so you say I should do business podcasting. Maybe if that's the right fit for you. The question, it's easy to get on the whole tactical implementation side of things. The question, the bigger and more important question is upstream, strategic, saying, hey, who are we? What is the message that we're putting out into the world? Who are we for? What do they care about? What's getting in their way of them getting what they want? And how can we come around alongside them as their guide to help them get what they want? It's the classic description of how any business takes place. So when you figure that out, when you figure out the messaging, then you can be armed with that and say, okay, what are the outlets which are most effective to put this out into the world? Of course, how does compliance figure into this? You have to keep that in mind as well. You don't stay within the boundaries of everything that you need to. But the fact is, we're all people, and we all have things that we believe. We all have things that we're interested in. We all have news that's publicly available. And there are all these kind of things that you can put into place once you figure out your upstream messaging. So I would encourage anyone who says, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. It can be. It absolutely can be. It doesn't have to be. The question is, who are you? And what's the message you're putting out into the world that will connect with the people that you're meant to connect with?
Awesome. We know your time's incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. For our folks who are watching or listening and want to learn more, where's the best place for them to go to learn about all things Jeff and Resolve?
There is one place to go for people who are interested in what we've been talking about. And you're saying, okay, can you give me a bigger picture on this? There is a place where I have a very limited number of podcast episodes specifically built out to lay out all these ideas. If you're looking to get more information, go to storygreenlight.com/RIA podcast. Storygreenlight.com/RIA podcast. You can get more information there. And for the people who say, okay, I get it. I want to experience this for myself. I want to expand my public presence. Sometimes the best and most efficient and effective and powerful way is to experience that for yourself. And if you want to experience that for yourself, email me hello@storygreenlight.com.
Awesome. This has been Seth Greene with Jeff Bartsch from Story Greenlight. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks everybody for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.